Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 13 of Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm just one of your hosts, the FightersRep, along with my legendary co-host, the King of California, Manny Robles. How you doing, Manny?
Peace. Thank you for that, George. Everything's great. Had a great weekend. Happy to be back home from Florida, and happy to be back on the show, episode number 13. I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty pumped up. How are you, George? How's your weekend?
I'm doing well. You know, I had a beautiful little vacation that I told you about, Manny, out in India, where it was, you know, despite the fact that it was 1,000,000 degrees outside, I had a good time, brother. And, you know, back to reality. It's a Monday, so we're back to reality. But luckily, we got this fantastic show. We've got boxing, so we're always happy-go-lucky here, Manny.
It's always good when we're talking about boxing.
For sure. Manny, you had a trip to Florida where your fighter, you know, your very young fighter, Brandon Valdez, you know, basically got a shot at a title. I believe it was the Latino Super Bantamweight title for the WBO.
Actually, no, it was a youth world title. The WBO, the WBO Youth World Title. It's a title. It's a world title, but it's called a Youth World Title for fighters under the age of 23. Okay. They get an opportunity to fight for like the Youth World WBO World Title. It's another belt. But it's you know, it's something that the younger boxers in boxing get an opportunity to fight for, you know, at a relatively young age, and you can't be older than 23. You can't be older than 24. You're 23 years old to have an opportunity to fight for a title such as this one. So, you know, we came up short. You know, my guy put a valiant effort, but unfortunately, you know, we walked away with the defeat. And kudos go out to the Espinosa kid that beat us on Friday night. He was hungry. He just wanted it more, plain and simple. He wanted it more. He you know, went above and beyond to make sure he walked away with the title, and I commend him for that. I congratulate him and his coach, and you know, it is what it is. I mean, that's boxing for you. You win some, you lose some.
Absolutely. And, you know, I definitely want to talk to you about that. But, Manny, I felt like even though we almost went for 2 hours on last week's show, there wasn't much. We just kept, you know, going from story to story and coming up with our kind of own stuff we wanted to talk to. There wasn't much going on in the world of boxing. But this week, Manny, my goodness, this week, Manny, we had, we want to start off with that Madrimov, Israil Madrimov. There was a botched KO there. I don't know if you saw that one.
I saw the replays. Yes, I did.
We've also got to discuss that Rolly Romero fight everybody's talking about. We've got to discuss David Benavidez, who was involved in some more drama. And,
once again.
And we've got to, you know, I was hoping we could do a little preview of Dillian Whyte, one of my favorite heavyweights, against Alexander Povetkin, which is going down this weekend, Manny.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of boxing. Things are starting to pick up a whole lot now, and I'm happy. I'm happy for all of us as fans, and for boxing to be back on the map once again. The way things are going, the way it's picking up right now, I'm pretty excited about it.
Absolutely. So, Manny, kind of first thing I wanted to talk to you about was this Israil Madrimov fight. Manny, he was taking on a very tough guy with a much more advanced pro record. I mean, Madrimov has got a ton of experience in the amateurs, but he was taking on a very, you know, advanced guy in Eric Walker, 37-year-old veteran. For 8 rounds, Manny, this was a close fight.
Right. Okay.
For 8 rounds, this was a close fight. Walker was pushing him. And then, you know, in the 9th round, Manny, Madrimov attacks, lands a monster of a left hand. Of course, he's moving forward. They were very physical throughout the fight. And kind of everything just starts going haywire from there. To me, it looks like an absolutely clean knockout. Walker was on the floor for what seemed to be over a minute trying to recover, and referee Gary Ritter kind of decided that it was a push from the shoulder as opposed to a knockout.
No such thing. No such thing.
so
knockout. That's as clean as a knockout as I have ever seen. So, referee made a huge mistake, and that could cost them. That could cost him his job, definitely. Because, come on, man, this kid could have been seriously hurt. He was knocked out.
Yeah.
He was definitely knocked out. So I don't know where, that's why in some cases they go to the replays. Now there's such thing in boxing now.
Right.
In Las Vegas at the Bubble Top Rank card, they have a replay. They have replays now. So if the referee makes a mistake, if he misses something, he might call a low blow. When somebody going to the body, he might end up calling a low blow when the shot was fair. Then he'll go back to the replay and fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this should have happened. This should have happened on Saturday night, where if the referee was not sure, or not forget the referee, because obviously he was convinced that there was the shoulders what knocked out the opponent. Then someone within the commission, the judges, there's plenty of people.
My goodness! Yes,
that could have called it. They could have went back to the replay and called it out and say, "Hey, listen, you're wrong. It was a knockout."
Right. Right.
I don't know.
It was madness to me, Manny. The first thing that came to my mind was, okay, this guy's gone. And they're about to let him get back up and kind of get into a fight again where there's 3.5 rounds left, where the guy's probably, almost guaranteed that he's concussed at that point, because he was out of it, Manny.
Yep, absolutely. And just the way he landed on the canvas too.
Oof.
You know what I mean?
And it wasn't a light knockout either. It was a pretty devastating knockout.
Yeah, it was a huge knockout. Yeah, huge.
And of course, Madrimov went on to win a decision in that fight. But I'm curious the way you are, Manny. With all the commissioners that are there.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Because normally, have you ever pay attention during a fight when a fighter goes down, when a fighter gets knocked down? What the referee does is he'll look over rings to ringside, and he's got an assistant. Yes. That will concur or be certain that it was a knockout. You know what I mean? He'll look over his shoulder, look at the assistant ref or whatever you want to call him, and the moment he starts counting, then it was a fair blow. You know what I mean? Because you have another person looking at now. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just the referee being there on his own and making his own call. Or if you're not sure, go to the replay. Even if the guy goes down, somebody's got to tell you that it was a fair blow.
I'd be curious to see why they didn't go to replay in this one, Manny, because they have been utilizing it for some fights.
Absolutely. That's why I can't seem to understand why the referee, if he's not sure, then go to the officials on sitting ringside.
Right. And then the crazy part to me, Manny, is so this guy. At least to me, seems like Walker's on the floor for about a minute. He's not getting up.
He's knocked out.
Right. He's on the floor for about a minute. The guy's totally out of it, and then he gives him 5 minutes to recover, like it was a low blow or something. Instead of checking up on him to see if, where he's at or what happened. It's just not a very responsible situation, man. I would have gone. Yeah. I would have gone to replay. I would have gone to replay, and I would have said, hey, what happened here? Is this guy healthy enough to continue? And I don't know why they didn't do that.
Okay. Now, I got a question for you. Okay, so we all know it was a knockout. We all know the referee made a big mistake. Now what? Now what? Now what's gonna happen? I mean, it was a decision.
Yeah.
There's no, the referee let it go. What's gonna happen to the referee now?
You know, Manny, I don't believe, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe he loses his job. I don't believe he loses his job. I think he just continues to be a referee, and the reason I say that, and I've discussed this before on this channel, Manny, there are not that many people vying to work for these commissions. You know what I mean? I mean, it's an unfortunate thing. It's a hard job, Manny. We can't take that away from what these officials do. What they do is a tough job, Manny. And even in the UFC over the weekend, there were several instances of bad calls and bad decisions. So it's in all combat sports, and typically they're all using the same athletic commissions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But Manny, not enough people. I've told people on this channel, if you think you could do a better job, apply, because not enough people are applying. Not enough competent people are applying. Maybe we need, like I think you've mentioned, we need more fighters. A lot of people have told me we need more fighters involved, you know?
Well, the referees, quite honestly, I believe that referees should travel to the boxing gyms and from time to time and put in their work, just like boxers put in their work at the gym in preparation for their fights. Well, I believe that referees should do the same thing. Referees should show up to the gym and put in their work in the gym. Refereeing sparring sessions. Right. Get your feet wet. Get your practice going. You know what I mean? That way, if you have a fight coming up, if you know you're working a fight, especially a big title fight, come to the gym. Get involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've done it before. I've done it with the California State Athletic Commission, where they'll call me and they'll ask me if they can come over and kind of like, referee some fights, or some sparring sessions. And yeah, I always welcome them, because it does not only benefit them, it also benefits the fighters to know what to look for, to know what you're going to get called for. You know what I mean? And it's interesting, because now that you have a ref in the gym, excuse me, you actually have someone who physically get involved in the gym.
Right.
And the fighters tend to hold. You got somebody to, break them up and make the calls or educate the fighters at the same time. Let them know what to look out for, what's good, what's not good, what they're looking for, and so forth and so on. Vice versa, the referees are getting their practice like fighters are, even though there's no it's even in sparring, these guys go at it. There's no such thing as no such thing as that. But you see what you know what I'm saying? So referees also need to get involved. They need to show up. They need to get their practice going at the gyms, at the local gyms here or anywhere for that matter, especially when they know they have fights coming up. They know their number gets called up, and they know they have a fight this week or next week. They got to show up and practice.
Yeah, you got to be sharp. I mean, you got to be sharp. Like it's like anything else, man. I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. I mean, bringing them to the gym, that's as close to a simulation of what they're going to be doing as possible. You got to be sharp, and I'm still just confounded, though, as to why you wouldn't look at the replay, because you have to protect the fighter. That's another thing. I mean, you mentioned, Manny, that it affects the fighters. I mean, this guy could have not only been, severely harmed. I mean, we lost 4 boxers, I think, last year.
Yeah.
And
that's one too many.
Right. And then on top of it, I mean, now, Madrimov would have otherwise gotten a KO with any other referee on his record.
I agree.
So now, not only, of course, Walker's injury is more important, but Madrimov now, has a decision on his record that should be a KO.
Right. It should be a KO, absolutely. No, you're 100. And then not only referees, but also judges should be coming into the gym to score sparring sessions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh
Because
man.
we all saw what happened with the Rolly fight on Showtime. So I think the judges also need to get their feet wet and get their practice going, so they don't make these bad calls. You know what I mean?
The perfect segue, Manny, right into Rolly Romero. Manny, what the hell happened there, my man? What happened there, my
I
man?
don't know. I mean, you can't blame it on anybody. I've been reading all this mess on social media, and they're blaming Floyd Mayweather because he bought out the fight and so forth and so on. No such thing. You blame it on the officials. You got no one. You can't blame it on the fighters. You
Yeah,
can't blame it on Rolly. He's not the official.
right, right,
You
right.
know, or Mayweather. They have nothing to do with that. It's the official that made the terrible call. It's not the fighter's fault.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not the in this case Mayweather's fault. That was that. I
right,
don't even
right.
think it's the officials that should be the ones to blame for making a bad decision. And
Manny,
we've seen it time and time again.
it's incredible to me, Manny, how the world can see something one way and the three judges immediately around the ring can
Yeah,
see things another way. It drives me crazy.
yeah. No, it drives me crazy too. It wasn't just one judge like it happens sometimes, or it was. If it's more than one, then you've lost the fight.
Yeah.
But it was all three officials are giving a terrible scorecard.
It was an absolutely horrific decision. I haven't seen too many. I haven't seen too many that bad, Manny. And Robert Garcia is definitely going off on social media about this. I think he was also mentioning that the WBA didn't do. I don't want to speculate here, but I think he said the WBA didn't even have like drug tests or something for the fight or something
Oh
like that.
wow, is that correct? No,
I
they should, especially in a title fight. There should have been drug testing before and after the fight.
Right, and that's amazing that you make that point because that's exactly the point that I believe he makes if you go on
Mhm.
Instagram. I think it was in somebody's story. I think a page that I follow, I saw him indicating that, hey, it's a WBA
Uh-huh.
lightweight title fight. There should absolutely be
Drug
some sort
testing.
of drug testing here. What the hell's going on?
Who was in charge? Who was it? Because normally the president of the WBA will assign the referees, the judges that are working the fight, the
Yeah.
title fight, the inspector that oversees everything, make sure everything's going well, going the way it should be. Plus the commission, the state athletic commission has a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah.
And so somebody dropped the ball, man. Somebody made a big mistake.
Big time, and it's sad for a guy in Mariñez who's a 29-year-old guy, ranked number 6, fighting for a title and just kind of totally gets ignored. And Manny, the scorecards, I mean, it's Manny, it's one thing if they're consistent. I mean, besides being wrong, in my opinion, they're not even consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had a score of 115 and 113. Um, so that that judge had it
Mm-hmm.
close,
Yeah.
and then you had 116 112, and then you had
Mm-hmm.
118 110.
Terrible. 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 10 runs to 2. It's terrible.
I mean, what? How
What the
could
hell were you looking?
Manny? How could one have it 115 113 and the other one have it 118 110? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I can't say that it's never happened to me. It's happened to Robert. I'm sure it's happened to him more than once where, we have to be involved with where judges give a bad decision. They give a terrible decision, and it's a shame. It's happened to me in the past as well where I felt we walked away. I'll put it plain and simple. Friday night after the fight, the moment the fight was over, I immediately walked over to the opposite corner and I congratulated both the opponent and their coach for a good performance because I knew in my heart that we had lost the fight.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I went to the opposite corner. I congratulated both the fighter and the coach. on a great performance and a great job, because there was no question in my mind that we had lost the fight. You know, it's rare when you see people do that before a decision, but
Yeah, yeah.
there was no doubt in my mind. Hey, listen, you know, and same situation with the fight on Saturday on the Showtime. There was no if or buts. He definitely lost. Rolly definitely lost the fight, and I think he did deep down. He knew he had lost, but obviously you never know what the judges are looking at. So you just gotta sometimes you just for that same reason. Sometimes you just gotta sit back and wait for the decision because you just never know what they're looking at.
It's wild, Manny, and listen to this statistic, Manny. I want your
Yeah,
opinion on this one. You ready? It's a good thing you're sitting down for this one, Manny.
I gotta hear this one.
It looks like Mariñez landed more than twice as many punches as
Wow,
Romero.
wow.
And literally, if you just look at the power punches, Romero landed 31, Mariñez landed
Uh,
72.
yeah, yeah, there it is.
More
There it is.
than double, man, and he still didn't
Uh,
get the decision, brother.
yeah, you can throw more punches. Look at there's been situations where, as a fighter, you can throw more punches, but it's called effective aggression.
Sure,
You
sure.
can throw 1,000 punches. Meanwhile, the other guy can throw 200. But if he's landing a bigger percentage of punches, you can throw 1,000. If you're not landing,
Right,
then
right, right.
you're not landing. You can't win a fight if you're not landing punches. I don't care how aggressive you're being. I
Yeah.
don't care if you're the one. It's called effective aggression. I don't care if you're the guy coming forward, the guy looking for the fight. You can win a fight box.
Manny, you there? Sorry, guys. Looks like we lost contact with Manny. Let me get him right back on here. Manny, you there? One second, guys. Manny, we lost you. You there?
Yeah,
There you are. I was worried for a second there. It's all good. It's all good.
it's probably this heat. I'm telling you.
So you were telling us about effective aggression, Manny, before.
Correct. Effective aggression. If you got to be effective. If you're not landing, I don't care how many punches you throw. If you're not landing, then you're not being effective.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, meanwhile, the other guy might be fighting up on his back foot. Fighting. He might be the boxer, and he might be the one retreating. But if he's being a better counter puncher,
Yeah.
if he's making you miss, and if he's countering you and landing the bigger, better shots, then guess that you can see the fight going in his direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Manny, I would definitely never put the blame in this situation on Floyd Mayweather. I'm like you. I 1000% put the blame on the officials. But
Absolutely, 100%. And see, it's shameful because a lot of times, like I said, people are blaming Floyd. People might be blaming Rolly, but no one's to blame for but the officials. And guess what? At the end of the fight, they get to go home. They get to go home, no problem. Hey, listen, they made a bad call. Nobody's telling them anything. Nobody's following these guys.
right.
Nobody knows who they are. I guarantee you, nobody knows who the officials were. Nobody knows who the judges were. Everybody's looking at the fighter, or in this case, Floyd Mayweather, because that's his manager.
Yeah.
Promoter, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Promoter. But definitely, the people to blame for are the officials and no one else.
You know, Manny, I've thought about this before, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, right? Because obviously, as a promoter, I see things that maybe other people don't get to see. And I'm not saying it's ever happened at my events because I'm not that much of an influencer yet. But I do feel like in certain situations, right, there may be a sort of underground pressure on these officials to, if the promoter basically has like a golden egg, you know what I mean? To maybe make sure that this golden egg stays intact. You know what I mean? And I think if there is a pressure in combat sports, Manny, that pressure is a real thing. Where, maybe you're a new judge, you're just cutting your teeth, or maybe you're one that's been in the game for a long time and you understand that the promoter is the one that's paying your salary this evening,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so, his baby goes up there. Let's take, for example, Canelo
Mhm.
Alvarez. You know what I mean? And, some guy that's, from nowhere gives him a great fight. It's a close fight. I
Mhm.
feel like as bad as it is, it's just human nature almost that takes over. And I feel like a lot of the times officials will sort of lean towards the promoter's baby. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
The A side fighter, right?
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of
Right.
that?
Every time you, well, look, I disagree. It shouldn't be this way. I think the winner should be declared the winner. Period.
Right.
In some instances, you have close fights where I can see that happening where the fight is dead even, and then you might favor the home fighter. That might make the difference in a fight, right? When it's a close fight, you favor the home fighter or the promoter's fighter, if you will, to get the decision. Yes, but I can see that happening. When it's a close fight. Look, I was in Australia with Jeff Horn versus Manny Pacquiao, and I saw Manny Pacquiao win that fight.
Yeah.
It wasn't his best performance, but I saw him win. But yet Jeff Horn got the decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Home fighter fighting in Australia, the crowd and everything. He's got everything going for him. The crowd, maybe the officials, maybe, but that's an influence that can be a big influence for the judges to lean a specific way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's definitely something, Manny, that I felt before,
Hmm.
as a promoter, and that I feel like as a fan, right? As a fan, where
Right,
especially in a situation, I mean, I don't mean to call out Canelo. I think he's a fantastic fighter.
right.
He's definitely in my top five. But those
Yeah.
fights with Golovkin, I mean, had it
There
been,
you go.
yeah,
Perfect example. Perfect example. But we're fights here. This was not a close
right,
fight.
right, right,
You know what I mean? This kid lost.
yeah,
This wasn't a close fight. There were some rounds like that he obviously that he won, but he definitely didn't win the majority of the rounds. He definitely did not. I saw the kid from the Dominican Republic definitely win the fight.
yeah, yeah. It was very amateur hour. Those
Yeah,
officials on that evening. By the way,
yeah.
shout out to Neil the security. Shout out to everybody that's in here right now. Thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, the bell notification icon next to it. Join us on Keeping It Clean with Manny Robles every Monday at 7 p.m. And now it's official. You can get your Keep It Clean gear in the link below. We've got masks, Manny. We've got t-shirts. And of course, you guys can donate to the channel as you have in the past, which is much appreciated. Anything you guys donate to us gets reinvested right back into the promotion and the channel. And I'm sure on Manny's end into helping, bring up these young, amazing fighters. Manny is now managing fighters, Manny.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes,
so
sir.
you can follow Manny as a manager on Instagram at LBA Legends, and you can follow him on Instagram personally at manuel.boxing right there in the bottom of your screen. And you can
Hmm.
follow us at FightersRep on basically all social media outlets. David Castellanos, man, he says, before we continue, he says, Hola, Mr. Robles from David Castellanos, back from Legends Boxing.
Oh, right on. Right on. What's up, David? How you doing?
So appreciate you joining us, David. YRT also said, "Sup, fellas, sup, YRT." Thank you guys. Salute to all of you guys that are in here. Much love. Thank you guys for being here with us. So Manny, what do you think this does for Rolly Romero? What do you think this does for Mariñez, the Dominican
You,
fighter?
you move on. Listen, you move on. You move on. I'm sure Rolly will learn from this experience. He won. That's all that matters. And in his opinion, obviously, that's what matters. But he's got to be true to himself. He's got to go back to the drawing board. He's got to study the fight and see what he can pick up on and see what he can improve. Fortunately for him, he still has that undefeated record. So it's time for him to grow as a fighter.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And learn to stay humble. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Just hey, just stay humble. Keep it on the lowdown, and then if you want to talk, make sure you get that fight out the way first, and get that W before you can start calling people out. Especially when you have a fight. You have a fight. Just relax. He's gotta. Hopefully, like again, he'll learn. Hopefully, he learns from this experience. It's a lot of it has to do with the people you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to be able to talk to you. Somebody's got to be able to help you and advise you and just stay humble again, like I said. And on the other hand, for his opponent, it's not the end of the world. What you said? You said he was 29.
29-year-old.
He's, he's not a kid. He's not a kid anymore. But hopefully he gets another opportunity, maybe even a rematch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe even a rematch, and if that's the case, then great, he deserves it. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, he's 29, so he's got some catching up to do. Uh, but uh, um, but definitely a good fighter, and I'm sure he'll get another opportunity soon.
Yeah, and I think the saddest part about it is, I mean, I guess you can't really fool the boxing public that much, Manny, because they're all talking about this being a robbery. They're labeling,
Correct. You
they're
can't fool the
labeling,
public.
yeah, they're labeling Rolly as overhyped. And
Yep.
it's a sad situation for
Well,
for
well, look,
Marines.
look. I've been saying this for a while now. A lot of these kids, man, fighters, like, no disrespect. I mean, this is just my opinion. I don't mean to disrespect anybody or any fighter out there, but you got fighters like Devin Haney. You got fighters like Ryan Garcia. You got fighters like this kid Rolly. Man, they got a long way to go, man. They got to
Yeah,
stay humble, man. They just take a step back and let your fist do all the talking.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, for
Let your
sure, for
actions do
sure.
the talking for you. Your performances do the talking for you. And nowadays things are different. Not like back in the day where fighters had a fight. Nowadays it's like they haven't fought anybody, and here they are running their mouths like they like they freaking control boxing when they don't. But the sport, it's much bigger than a fighter. You know what I mean?
Let
The
them
sport of
know,
boxing is a
Manny.
lot bigger.
Let them know,
Yeah,
brother. I
no,
love
I'm just
that. I love that.
saying because it's not like back in the day. Like, look at Oscar De La Hoya. Fighters like Oscar. Oscar fought everybody, man.
Yeah,
Floyd fought everybody, man. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, he had a big mouth, but he backed it up.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? He backed it up, and not only did they won world titles in multiple weight classes. Manny Pacquiao, and the list goes on and on. We go back to the '80s with Mike Tyson and Julio Cesar Chavez, and even Sugar Ray Leonard, and so forth and so on. Uh, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran. Man,
oof,
these guys were remarkable fighters, and they proved it in the ring.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? These kids, with all due respect, they haven't proved anything yet. They're barely getting started. They're getting way ahead of themselves, and the social media outlets are not. They're not really helping. Because they're
yeah,
blowing
yeah.
them up. They're blowing them up when they're not there yet.
Right, right. I mean, I guess that's the gift and the curse of social media, right there, Manny.
Yeah. So, just my opinion.
Yeah,
But they're good fighters. They're not great fighters. They're good fighters.
yeah, yeah.
Win some world titles, and then we'll talk about greatness. Lomachenko status. Or even his kid Shakur.
Aha,
He's a world.
aha.
These kids are the world champions. Shakur's a silver medalist at the Olympic Games. World champion and under 15 professional fights, I believe. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, Teofimo, another world champion. They're the real deal. I mean, to me, Teofimo, second to Lomachenko, is definitely the top second best lightweight in the world.
Yeah, Yeah.
These guys, once he beats, if he does beat Lomachenko, then like I said in the past, he'll definitely be considered pound for pound the best lightweight in the world. But he's not there yet. And we're speaking of lightweights in this situation with Rolly and Devin Haney and they're all in the same weight class. Ryan Garcia, etc. So they haven't proven they're not there yet. They haven't graduated yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I think you're absolutely right. I love that you bring up Shakur. I was actually going to bring him up as kind of an outlier because he's the one that's probably the most talented, if anything. But he's not doing any of the talking that a lot of the other ones are doing. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, he's doing some talking. Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, but
He's calling out the other world champions, and he's not bad. And no, he's calling out he's calling out world champions.
yeah, yeah,
And he's not running away from anybody. That's the difference. He's willing to fight anybody. You know what I mean? I respect that in a fighter because he's been calling out Oscar Valdez forever.
yeah, yeah.
And calling everyone out in the 126 weight class. Now 130. Calling out Tank Davis. You know what I mean? He's willing to fight the best today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't see Teofimo willing to fight Lomachenko. That's what I want to see. That's what people want to see.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I feel like Devin Haney. I mean, Devin Haney has talked a little bit, but he's not on the level. I think me and you are a little bit less enamored with what Ryan Garcia is doing because we don't like the fact that he's kind of shooting himself in the butt when he's
Correct. Arguing
with his promoter and airing the dirty laundry over there. So
it's business. I'm sure they'll kiss and make up because it's business at the end of the day.
Too much money on the line.
Yeah, exactly. Too much money on the line, so they gotta squash it and move on.
Yes, sir. So, Manny, I wanted to move on real quick. Obviously, we can, touch on whatever we want to as we continue, but I wanted to move on and discuss David Benavidez, Manny. What a talent. What a specimen. Super tall and long for the division, but unfortunately, seems to have a little bit of trouble, Manny, with his discipline. Loses his WBC super middleweight title on the scales Friday, Manny. Of course, he goes on to absolutely, destroy basically Angulo. But still, it's sad to see him now for, I believe it's the second time because of a lack of discipline, something on the outside, that, he loses his title. What are kind of your thoughts on David Benavidez?
Well, this is the second time he loses his title. The first time he lost his title because he tested positive for cocaine.
Right.
And let's call it what it is, man. Let's call it what it is. And then the second time he came in overweight, pretty much 3 pounds overweight. And he had no intention, after getting off the scale, he had no intention or showed no intention to go try and lose the weight, the extra weight. So as soon as he got off, if you notice, as soon as he got off the scale, he went straight to his drink to rehydrate. Yeah. He's like, "There's no way. That's it. You want to fight me? Fight me. I'm not dropping the weight." So to me, that was more unprofessional on his part because not only did he miss the weight class by close to 3 pounds, pretty much, but had no intention to go drop the weight, the excess weight. Now, let's on the other hand, let me, what if there was Angulo that came in overweight?
Oh, man.
What do you think would have happened if he was 3 pounds overweight?
Manny, with David Benavidez' attitude,
yeah,
I think the fight would have potentially been canceled. I really believe that because if you have the attitude where you're the champ, right? You're supposed to be the guy that's, right, that's setting the example kind of. You're the A-side and you're coming in 3 pounds over. I mean, you really, for lack of a better term, I mean, you really don't give a shit, Manny. And then, and like you said, you really show that you don't give a shit by going straight to your drink and not even trying to, run that little bit of excess weight off to at least save face.
At least make an effort. At
Right,
least make an
right.
effort. Make a sincere effort.
Try to save face.
Nope.
Right.
You want to fight me? Fight me. And to me, that was a bit unfair for the opponent. And I just sometimes I think, you know, he's the A side fighter. If he was on the B side and the B side fighter doesn't make the weight, then what? Do they force him to make the weight, or did they force him to take the fight? I don't know.
Yeah, I think a guy like Benavidez, again, based on the attitude that I'm seeing from you know, like you mentioned, being 3 pounds overweight, not trying to run it off, going straight for the drink. It just shows me someone that doesn't really give a shit, Manny. And I think if he's got leverage where the opponent is 3 pounds overweight, he's probably going to force him to take it off, or just tell him,
or at least like I said, at least have make an effort to drop 1 or 2 pounds, even if you don't lose all 3. But hey, listen, you got 2 hours. Go lose me a couple pounds in the next 3 hours, 3 pounds, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But at least make an effort. They would have forced him to make an effort to lose the weight. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have seen him get off the scale and go straight to his drink. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very unprofessional.
It's
very disrespectful for the opponent in the sport of boxing.
It's a sad situation, Manny, because, you know, he's such a talented guy.
Badass fighter, man. To me, he's definitely the best fighter at the superweight division.
Yeah.
Super middleweight division.
Right.
You know, 168. He's definitely the man to beat at 168. And I believe that he has a very legitimate chance, a legitimate chance to beat Canelo at 168. He's incredible. He's a badass fighter. Yeah. What he did was, there's no excuse for what he did. You know, the first time, you know, getting caught for you know, the illegal substance.
The nose candy, Manny?
Yeah, the nose candy. There's no excuse for that. No excuse for that. And now the second time, there's no excuse for him not making 168. He had plenty of time. If you want to look at the calendar and look at the last time he fought up until now, he had plenty of time to prepare, man.
Yeah.
You know, you can't blame it on the coronavirus. You can't, you know, how is it that his opponent made weight, or all of these other fighters are making weight? You know, it was unfair. It was unfair for his opponent, and we seen it coming, though. I gave this kid Angulo no chance to beat Benavidez, and then obviously with him being 3 pounds overweight, forget about it. If he didn't have a chance before then, imagine being 3 pounds overweight. In boxing, that's a lot. In boxing, it's especially the night of the fight. Can you imagine all the weight that he was able to gain back?
My goodness.
You know, so it's already an advantage. He's already a great fighter, and and plus the advantage of the weight. There's no way that Angulo had a chance against Benavidez.
And, you know, that's part of, I think that's part of the reason that we get upset over it, is because not only is he a really talented guy, Manny, but, you know, being in combat sports, understanding kind of, you know, how much weight these guys can gain, what kind of advantage they can have going into the fight. Because, I mean, if he's 3 pounds overweight, Manny, at the weigh-in, mm-hmm. I mean, he's going to be a light heavyweight at least. Mm-hmm. He's going to be he might be a cruiserweight. Yeah, he might be a cruiserweight. Yeah,
heavyweight. No way.
So,
way
I mean,
beyond light heavyweight.
Especially a guy like David Benavidez, Manny, who is over 6 feet tall. I mean, he's a big guy for the division too, you know?
He's a big guy. But like I said, man, he's definitely an incredible fighter. He's an incredible talent, and he just doesn't need all this drama, man. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need to bring this to himself. You know what I mean? He's an incredible fighter. And the sky's the limit with this kid. He's young. What is he, 23?
Man, he's only 23 years old, Manny.
He can unify. He can unify at 168, you know. He's got some unfinished business at 168. I see him making an effort to win a world title at 168 once again. But I don't know how long that'll take, considering he missed the weight. But then the sanctioning bodies, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how they work.
Yeah,
it's all politics. So obviously he's one of their premier fighters for the WBC, that is. So I'm sure it won't take long for him to get another opportunity, another crack at the world title at 168 WBC or any of the other sanctioning bodies.
Manny, you mentioned him having plenty of time to get ready for this fight, to be on weight. The last time he fought, Manny, was September 28th of 2019. Almost an entire year went by, basically 11 months.
There you go. It's your job, man. This is what you signed up for. It's your job to be in the gym. It's your job to stay disciplined, to stay ready. So for him not to make the weight, there's absolutely no excuse. Absolutely no excuse for that. And but I don't take anything away from him. He's an incredible fighter. His dad, he's my friend. His dad is my friend. They're great people, good people. So they just got to get back to the drawing board and do it right, do things right.
Yeah. Manny, did you know this about him? This is a really interesting fact I'm seeing online, and I wanted to know if you heard about this.
He's never missed weight. He's never missed weight.
Well, I'm seeing, though, that when he was 15, that his weight ballooned to 250 pounds, and he struggled with dieting and discipline.
He was a chubby kid growing up.
Yeah,
he was a chubby kid. He was always, overweight and big, but he always had talent, man. If you check, I think he turned pro when he was 15 or so, 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
He turned pro at a very early age, and he had a handful of amateur fights.
Yeah,
it is a talent, man. He's an incredible fighter. His brother was Jose Benavidez was a very good fighter himself. He should have, his last fight was versus
was it Terrence Crawford?
Terrence Crawford, yep.
I thought he gave Terrence Crawford a hell of a fight.
He gave him a decent fight. Terrence Crawford dominated the fight, but nonetheless, he still gave Crawford a good fight, and he got caught in the last round, got stopped, got knocked out. But nonetheless, he gave a good effort, and he hasn't fought since then. And he should have been a superstar a long time ago.
Yeah,
he makes some bad decisions along the way. Makes a bad. Bad calls, bad decisions, and unfortunately, he's now taking the back seat to his brother.
Yeah,
David Benavidez. But I believe David will bounce back from not making weight. He had a brilliant performance, not making weight, and again, I see him.
Manny, you there? Sorry, guys. We're having a little bit of a connection issue with Manny right now. I'll get him right back. Manny, you back?
Yep.
Hello? All right. I think you're back. I hear you. So you were mentioning he had some weight. Yeah. Can you hear me? Manny, can you hear me? Manny, can you hear us? Give me a second, guys. Let me try to call him back. Manny, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. I don't know
what's going on today.
Maybe you're in the wrong part of the house over there, Manny.
Yeah, I don't know what it is today.
I gotta blame you. I don't want to blame myself, Manny.
Alrighty.
So you were mentioning, you think he'll, fix his weight issues, get back on track?
Yeah, he'll bounce back. He's got an unfinished business at the super middleweight class, weight class. I see him coming back from this experience. He put up a great performance, won the fight, still undefeated, but that leaves a mark on his record, on his reputation, not making weight. You know what I mean? And obviously, what happened to him in the past, and now this, but this wasn't as bad as what he did in the past, obviously, as we all know. But nonetheless, as a professional, your job is to make weight. And he didn't.
And it's embarrassing, Manny, to lose the WBC title because you miss weight. That's embarrassing, bro.
Definitely. Could be a little embarrassing, yes. But it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I'm hoping it'll kind of sort of shame him back into being disciplined. You know
And
what
to
I
being
mean?
disciplined, correct. Again, he's a great fighter. I said this. He's definitely the top 168. Used to be because unless he makes weight again, of course.
Yeah.
168, super middleweight, pound for pound, the best super middleweight out there. And he would. I would love to see a fight between Benavidez and Canelo.
That would be awesome. I
That
would
would be an awesome
also, man,
fight.
if I'm being honest, they've got some heat, so I'd also love to see a fight between him and Caleb Plant because they really don't like each other, and I
Yeah,
think
they
it would
don't
be a
like each
fun
other.
fight.
Yeah, like I said, I got Benavidez. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to put Benavidez. Benavidez, again, the top 168 fighter out there. So he's definitely someone to reckon with. And I just don't see anybody beating him today.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Who else? I mean, who else would he even compete against? I guess Callum Smith would be the only other
Colin
guy.
Smith, yeah, of course. Colin Smith is definitely a legit world champion at super middleweight. You mentioned Caleb Plant, and of course none other than
Canelo.
Canelo.
Yeah,
Some good
yeah.
fights,
Those are the guys that would, I think, be
definitely.
the best. I think a Billy Joe Saunders fight would be
Billy
fun
Joe
too.
Saunders, thank you, definitely. So there's some good fights to be made at that weight
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm hopefully he gets it together and he works on his weight. He gets back in the gym soon. Doesn't take too long to get back in the gym, and he just go ahead and get things back in order, back in place.
Such a talented guy, and you brought up Jose Benavidez before his brother. I mean, really, man, I thought he did quite a good job until the end there
Uh-huh.
against Terrence Crawford. I just felt like, they were talking about his leg, how he had been shot in his leg. Unfortunately, it sounds like these outside influences have had quite a negative impact on the Benavidez brothers as far as
Correct.
boxing goes. I
Uh-huh.
wonder, Manny, had he not been shot in that leg, what kind of fighter
Yeah.
would he?
I mentioned to you a second ago. Yeah, you probably lost me. But I mentioned that Jose Benavidez should have been a superstar a long time ago,
Yeah,
way before his brother. He had everything going for him. You know what I mean? Another fighter that should have been a superstar that fell off the face of the earth was Frankie Gomez.
yeah,
Well, the reason I mentioned Frankie Gomez is because for both Jose Benavidez and Frankie fought each other on numerous occasions as amateurs, where Jose Benavidez was never able to beat. Apparently, he was never able to beat Frankie Gomez as an amateur.
yeah.
So he turned pro. I believe he turned pro at age 17, and he used to be Manny Pacquiao's sparring partner. He used to train out of
The, the
wild card.
wild card? Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
he sparred everybody. He sparred Manny Pacquiao. He sparred Amir Khan when he was at a very early age, and everybody at the gym could just see that this kid had everything to become a superstar, become a world champion, and unfortunately, you know, I don't know what it was. Like I said, bad influences, maybe. Not being disciplined and so forth. And look at him now. I mean, he hasn't fought since Crawford. He got knocked out to Crawford, and that could be devastating for
Yeah,
any fighter.
yeah.
That could be a major setback. That could be a career-ending fight for any fighter. You know what I mean?
I agree. I
So much
agree.
because so much was expected of him. You know what I mean? And then I don't know. I mean, and hopefully that doesn't happen to David. Hopefully David can stay and maintain and keep his status and regain that title once again. Win it once again.
Yeah, Manny, a part of the reason I love doing this show with you is because I feel like we're both on the same tip in that we both want to see these guys do well and do better. And I would love to see, obviously, David Benavidez get back to the top, but maybe Jose Benavidez concentrate on boxing, rehab that leg,
Right.
and maybe go for another crack at the
Yeah.
title in that division
Yeah.
because he definitely, to me, Manny, he was fast. He looked like a talented guy.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's so I definitely would love to see him get back in there, and having a pair of brothers that are both successful in boxing is always cool. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's not the first time we see this situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Where two brothers are both become world champions. Gabriel Ruelas, Rafael Ruelas, Kiko Vejines, Negro Vejines. So and now the situation with the with the Benavidez brothers.
Yeah.
So definitely, I'm sure there's been other.
The Durrells, the Klitschko's.
Exactly.
There have been a couple of them. It's always interesting to me.
It's always interesting, especially when they both become world champions. Definitely interesting.
Manny, you mentioned Frankie Gomez.
Yep.
I mean, what happened to him?
I wish I knew, man. This kid had everything to be a superstar. Another kid we should touch on that topic one of these days on one of the shows, where boxers that we lose that are expected to become great fighters, great champions, and then they fall short to whatever, the wrong people. They get influenced. They just disappear.
Yeah.
Frankie Gomez, let me see, Panchito Bojado. You remember this kid, Panchito Bojado?
I don't.
Mexican Olympian, 2000. For 2000, he went to the Olympics in 2000 and represented Mexico. And this kid should have been a superstar. He had everything, had all the talent, speed, strength, all the God-given talent to become a major superstar. And lost him, man.
Yeah.
Lost him to the streets. Lost him to like I said, hanging out with the wrong people, the wrong crowd, and it's a shame.
Yeah. Guys, just so you guys know, appreciate you guys leaving comments and questions in the chat. We'll definitely get to them in a minute. Any questions you want to ask Manny or myself, just drop them in the chat. We'll definitely try to get to them at the end of the show, as we typically do. But yeah, Manny, just before we move on to the next topic, I mean, if I were Jose Benavidez, I really hope he comes back. I do feel like I could, if I were him, chalk that fight up to that leg, man. He was totally stationary. And he still put up a good fight, I thought, for a guy who seemed to have, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but seemed to have one leg, really, in the fight that was functional.
No, correct. But that just goes to show you what talent he was.
Yeah, definitely. Because Terrence Crawford
giving Crawford a run for his money. Crawford was definitely winning the fight, but there were some. Jose definitely had some good moments in that fight, but Crawford, he's just at another level.
Yeah,
and that's a guy that never gets into trouble, always makes weight, never gets himself in situations where like some of these other fighters that we just talked about that are influenced by the wrong people, the wrong crowd. Crawford is not that type of person. We've seen that time and time again, where he's disciplined, he's always ready, and he's at the top of his game.
100%, and I think that goes a long way, and that's probably the reason he's where he's at, Manny. It's that discipline.
Absolutely.
So let's go on to the next topic, Manny. Big fight this weekend, Manny. Big fight this weekend, and I'm probably excited about it because it's one of my favorite heavyweights. He's a guy with a strong Muay Thai kickboxing background, probably why he's so damn tough. It's Dillian, the Body Snatcher Whyte, taking on Alexander Povetkin, Manny, on August 22nd. That's this weekend. In Eddie Hearn's backyard, where me and you wanted to do an asada, and it's a fun fight. We've talked about it before. You've got Dillian Whyte, the surging, defending WBC interim heavyweight champ, who's been mandatory for something like over 1,000 days, taking on a tried and true, but obviously an older Alexander Povetkin. Manny, you are the heavyweight connoisseur with the damage and the chaos that you've caused in the heavyweight division, Manny. Nobody's ever going to forgive you for it. Man, are you still there? Oh, no. Oh, no, Manny, your connection. Let me get Manny right back in here. Sorry about this, guys. We'll make sure to be in a in a better spot next time. Manny, I lost you.
Yeah, what's going on?
I don't know.
What's going on today,
I
guys?
don't know, but you're back.
I gotta blame it on the heat.
You're back. You're back, and you're better than ever. But what I was saying was, I want your opinion on this fight because you're a heavyweight connoisseur, Manny. You've destroyed the heavyweight division. You've rebuilt it. You've caused so much chaos in the heavyweight division, Manny. And I say that, lightheartedly, of course. What do you think about this fight, Manny? What do you think about this?
I got Dillian Whyte.
Yeah.
I got Dillian Whyte winning. I think Povetkin. He's seen his best days already, and he's only getting older. I thought he lost when he fought Michael Hunter in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, that is. And I thought I've seen Michael Hunter, pretty much win the fight convincingly. They called it a draw. Maybe they had this fight coming up where we talk about the bad calls and bad decision making by the officials, and that was one of them. And I just believe that he's past his best days. He's a former Olympian. Was a good fighter back in the heyday when he was coming up as a fighter as a heavyweight. But he's relatively short. He's a relatively short heavyweight. Have you noticed?
Yeah, he's not that big. He's only listed as 6'2", and that may be being generous.
And he waited way too long to get a shot at the title. And the reason why is you had the Klitschko brothers at the time when he was coming up.
Right.
So, they waited for somebody to beat the Klitschko brothers. That never happened. So, I guess he waited too long, and when he got his opportunity, he came up short. Oh, he fought the Klitschkos.
He did. He lost, yeah.
He lost. He did. So he's, again, like I said, he's past his best days, and his best days are behind him. And Dillian Whyte, I mean, you can consider him to be in his prime. He learned a great deal from his defeat to Anthony Joshua the first time they fought. He's become a better fighter now. And I really believe that if they were to fight again, he'd definitely give Anthony Joshua a run for his money. He'd definitely give him another great fight, even more so than the first fight, because they were relatively new in the game as professionals when the first time they fought. None of them, both hadn't fought for a world title yet. They weren't, either guy was not a world champion. So, but nonetheless, it was a great fight. But now they're more seasoned. They're more experienced. So with that said, I believe that if they were to fight again, they'll definitely put up a great show, a great performance. There's so many fights to be made in the heavyweight division. Dillian Whyte's got to get Povetkin out of the way this weekend. And then after that, he can sit around and wait for the winner of Tyson Fury and
Deontay Wilder,
Deontay Wilder, since he's the mandatory right to the WBC, or the winner of Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. But there's definitely some great fights to be made. Let's not count out Usyk. Some great fights to be made in the heavyweight division.
Another great fight, if he doesn't feel like waiting around, Manny, he can always put that interim WBC title in case he wins against Povetkin on Saturday up against Prince Charles Martin. That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. That'd be a great fight.
I think it would be a good fight.
Yeah, it's a good fight, man. There's some good fights to be made in the heavyweight division. Any way you look at it, don't count out Andy Ruiz.
Yeah.
He's still relevant. Hopefully he fights again soon. I believe he's got to fight
Chris Arreola, man.
Chris Arreola, November, December. I thought Chris Arreola had already announced his retirement, but I guess he's coming back from retirement to fight Andy. And that should be a relatively interesting fight, because they're both Mexican fighters, Mexican heavyweights. So I see them both going. I see them both going at it. I've never seen Andy back out of a good fight, and then Arreola never backs out. He's never in a bad fight himself.
Yeah,
I believe that their styles make fights, and both their styles are match up equally to make a good fight. to make a great fight. But I do see Andy Ruiz coming out on top.
Yeah, well, I love Areola, Manny, but you're a lot nicer than me. I think it's a bit silly, this fight.
Yeah.
You fight Anthony Joshua twice. You beat him the first time. You go the distance with him the second time, where you were completely overweight, and then in your next bout, it's just strange to me. Areola. I mean, I would have hoped. To me, it just seems like a confidence building fight. I would have hoped he would have fought somebody that's more of a contender, maybe like a Dillian Whyte, somebody with some kind of hardware. You know what I mean? Somebody with a title. I mean, you're gonna go back and fight Chris Areola. It's not gonna, for me at least, in my opinion, Manny, it doesn't really help your career out.
Yeah, it's not exactly. It's like taking one leap forward instead of taking 5 leaps forward. You're only taking one.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, I would argue you kind of took a step backward, but that's just me, Manny.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, there you go. Because, like I said, Areola had already announced his retirement.
Yeah.
He was after the big what is it? Not Big Baby Miller.
Kaunowski.
After the Kaunowski fight, apparently that was it for him. Great fight where he came up short.
Great fight.
He's a veteran of the sport.
Areola's
a veteran of the sport. He's been around for a long time. And I remember when he fought
Klitschko. He fought Vitaly Klitschko,
Yeah, for the world title at the Staples Center, and he put up a valiant effort, but he came up short in that fight. And I really thought I was pulling for him that night, man. I was really hoping for him to win the world heavyweight championship of the world. That didn't happen, and he's had a couple opportunities more than once, that's for sure. And he's fought some great fights, but now he's fighting Andy Ruiz apparently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you said, I mean, it's really not taking him anywhere. It's really not leading to anything.
Strange. It's a strange fight. It's a strange fight.
It's not an elimination fight. It's not, you're not gonna get ranked in a higher, you're not gonna move up in the rankings. That is, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I could name maybe 10 to 20 fights that I would rather see him fight that would make more sense. Yeah. And like you said, Manny, this is absolutely no disrespect to Chris Areola. I love the guy. In fact, I actually, like you said, when he fought Klitschko, Manny, I was praying that the guy would beat Klitschko because I also wanted to see, especially at the time, there hadn't been a Mexican heavyweight champion yet, and I thought it would have been really cool. I also thought he had like a fun personality.
Oh yeah, he's great.
But now he's about 40. But now he's about 40 years old. I mean, are we expecting to see the best Chris Areola at this point? I don't. I
think the best Chris Areola is behind him as well, just like Povetkin.
Yeah. And a couple guys I would rather see fight Ruiz. And here's a list, Manny, of the Ring Magazine's top 10. So, we could just talk about these guys here. Kubrat Pulev, definitely would rather see that.
Right.
Oscar Rivas, definitely would rather see that.
Oh, Oscar Rivas beat Andy in the amateurs.
There you go. That would be a great storyline. Michael Hunter, a guy who deserves it, I think, more than Chris Areola. Joseph Parker, a rematch.
A rematch, correct.
Of course, Povetkin and Whyte are taken right now. Luis Ortiz would even, I think, make more sense. Even Luis Ortiz would make more sense at this point.
Correct. Luis Ortiz is a dangerous fighter.
Yeah.
He's a definitely, but he's only getting older as well. But why not Luis Ortiz, right? I mean, he's been stopped by Deontay Wilder on a couple of occasions, but he's definitely a good, solid boxer.
Yeah.
Southpaw. So he definitely give Andy a run for his money. That would definitely be an interesting fight.
For sure. So I'm with you, Manny. I mean, 100% on, the Dillian Whyte kind of coming through with the victory on this one. I think we may be seeing, with all due respect, we may be seeing the last fight for Alexander Povetkin. I have a feeling this may be his cash out here.
Yeah.
Manny, I could be wrong. But I think he's at the end of his career at this point.
Yeah, I don't see that. Anything can happen in boxing, as we all know. But from the looks of it, I mean, I don't see how Povetkin could beat Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte is at another level right now. He had a good fight in Saudi Arabia, same card as Andy versus Joshua. They all fought in the same card. Povetkin, Michael Hunter. So it was they good performance, and I just see him dominating this fight and possibly even getting a knockout in the later rounds.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that assessment. And also, I liked that you brought up his fight with Anthony Joshua. That was a good fight. He gave him a good fight back when, to be honest, Manny, I don't think he was anywhere near the fighter he is now. I think Joshua has also kind of changed a little bit. But I do think Whyte has improved more in that time than Joshua has. I mean, Joshua was probably more seasoned back then. That's why I'm saying that. But
Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, but I think Whyte has really improved a lot on the job.
Yes, he has.
You know,
He's become a full blown professional fighter.
man, he wins over Joseph Parker,
Oh, yeah.
wins over Oscar Rivas, a guy that's very tough that nobody wanted to tangle with. You know what I mean? Knocked out Lucas Brown. I mean, he's okay, but he knocked him out with a body. I think it was a body shot or something like that. I mean, just a bunch of great. Derek Chisora twice, who I think is a very tough guy. So I got a lot of respect for Dillian Whyte.
Yeah, I can tell he's one of your favorite heavyweights.
For sure. So let's move on, Manny, to the chat room. Let's see what everybody's saying in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining us. Any questions you have for me or Manny, definitely pop them in the chat. Let's see here. So Raw Dog, when we were talking about the young bucks that are you feel are talking a little bit too much, Manny, Raw Dog wrote in the chat, they're all wet behind the ears, talking about Ryan Garcia and these guys,
They're kids, they're young, they're kids. They got some growing up to do.
Yeah. And David Castellanos says, nowadays, you need to be a media celebrity champ to become a boxing champ. What do you think about that, man?
Unfortunately, that's the new era of boxing. That's what we're heading. Yeah. But hopefully, it's up to the fighters. It's up to fighters like Teofimo, like Lomachenko, like Crawford, and so forth to stand up, make a stand for the sport of boxing. Anthony Joshua, he's a great ambassador to the sport. So fighters like Dillian Whyte and so forth, Tyson Fury. Man, boxing's got a lot of superstars. Boxing's got some great fighters, and that don't do a whole lot of talking, and they do all their talking in the ring, man. They time and time again. Virgil Ortiz.
Oh yeah.
Not a big talker at all, but he does all his talking in the ring, and really at the end of the day, that's what people want to see.
Absolutely. And that's not to say there isn't value in marketing yourself. I mean, I think it's just as important for some guys as being and in some sports as being a great fighter. But yeah, if you can't talk with your hands in the ring, then you need to just take a seat, really.
Correct.
Raw Dog says Ryan is putting guys to sleep. Shakur is going rounds with guys.
No, skill for skill. I think Shakur is definitely a better fighter. Skill for skill.
Yeah.
He may not have the kind of power that Ryan Garcia has. Look at the kid we're just talking about her.
Manny, I think we lost you again, brother. Manny, you there? Oh. 1 second, guys. They're really hating on us, the internet gods today,
man. Somebody's setting us up today.
So you were saying Shakur, skill for skill, definitely.
Skill for skill, he's definitely the better fighter.
But the power, you were talking about the power as well.
The power definitely. Ryan holds the power, but Ryan hasn't fought for a world title yet. Ryan is not a world champion, and Shakur is. And so, I'm not to say that Ryan won't become a world champion, but you just got to give it to the guy that's on top right now, and that's
Right.
Shakur.
I think you were bringing up somebody else before this thing hung up on you. You were mentioning somebody else's power. No.
This kid carries a whole lot of power. The kid that just fought on Saturday night. Help me with him. What's his name?
Benavidez.
No, the kid that got the decision.
Oh, Rolly
Rolly.
Romero.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Rolly
yeah,
Romero.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the kid's got some pop,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have. He proved that he doesn't have the skills to compete with someone like Shakur.
Right,
You know,
right.
not that they're in the same weight class, because they're not. But skill for skill, he's definitely not there. But he does have pop. But what happens when you fight a fighter like the kid he fought on Saturday night? That's a better boxer.
Right, right.
Remember, Ryan's been doing great though. He's been knocking guys out in the first round. That's impressive. Maybe not level A fighters, but he's still getting it done.
Yeah.
But I like to see how he holds up against a fighter that's on the top of his game.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that, and I look forward to see him hopefully fight Luke Campbell coming up.
Correct. Luke Campbell's a good test for Ryan. Luke Campbell's definitely a former Olympian medalist. Experience. He's fought Linares, came up short. He's fought Lomachenko, came up short. Now he's fighting Ryan. Is Ryan at the same level as Linares or Lomachenko? I don't know. We have yet to see.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when we see him fight Luke Campbell, and if he manages to dominate and beat him and convincingly by knockout or decision, then we can make an assumption, right? We can grade him on that, and we can honestly say if he's ready for the big dogs or not.
Absolutely. David Castellanos is in here, Manny. He says, I can go to Mexico City, get a real fighter who has no fame and no backup from
Oh
all
yeah.
top promoters, put some time into them, and we'll give any of these so-called top fighters a run for
Yep.
their money.
Look, man, that's one thing about Mexican fighters. A lot of these Mexican fighters. Look at Canelo. Canelo turned pro when he was what, 15,
Yeah,
16.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Look at Berchel today.
yeah.
Look at Julio Cesar Chavez. These are fighters that don't come from a solid amateur background. Yes, they were never Olympians. They were never multi national amateur champions or had a great amateur pedigree. They didn't, but yet they managed to become superstars. It's something about Mexican fighters, man, and it's in their DNA. I don't know what it is. I ask myself sometimes, why is it that Mexican fighters are so great? You know, Look at the kid we fought on Friday night, man. The
Man,
kid
Manny.
that kid was a beast, man.
Manny,
But
I
was
didn't
he?
want to say anything about him, man, but that kid was
Why not?
Manny, that kid was a machine, man.
A machine. It's a machine. And you know what he told us after the fight? He approached Brandon and he said, "Kid," he tells him, "Listen, man, you're gonna learn a lot from this fight. When I lost my first professional fight, I thought it was the end of the world for me. I thought that's it. It's the end. It's the end of my career, and it was only the beginning.
Yeah.
He's a relatively young fighter himself too. I mean, he's definitely a young fighter, a couple of years older than Brandon, but he's a world champion now.
Yeah.
He's ranked in the top 10. He's a youth world champion, but nonetheless, he's a champ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he holds a WBO youth title, and he's in the top 10 in the rankings. He'll definitely give anybody a run for his money. He's got 3 losses, and one of them was by knockout against Casimiro, a good Filipino fighter.
I know him. I know.
Right, correct. And so he learned from those fights,
Yeah.
and now he's a better fighter now. He's hungrier than ever. Coming into this fight, obviously, I felt like we had a good chance to win. But going back to what we're just talking about, Mexican fighters, what is it?
Yeah.
What is it about like this kid fighter? What, man? I mean, he just, you just got to be hungry, man. You just gotta be willing to put it on the line, like fighters like Barrera, fighters like Morales.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like partly cultural, Manny. I think they just love that sport, and you get a lot of love and props and when you're the man at fighting, it's just the most manly thing you can do, basically.
Yeah, nowadays we see bigger Mexican fighters, fighters like Canelo, Zurdo Ramirez, that are bigger. Even Andy, that became a heavyweight world champion. But I can see Mexican fighters definitely being more dominant in the sport if they were bigger. If there were more bigger fighters in the middleweight division, the light heavyweight division, you know what I mean? But most world champions, Mexican world champions, come in the lighter weight classes: flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, and so on. But nowadays, we're starting to see more and more talent in the bigger weight classes.
Yeah, I mean, especially the ones grow up here in the U.S., eat this American food, Manny. Maybe it makes people gain weight, make them bigger,
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But that's different. Fighters that come from Mexico, that are born in Mexico, come from Mexico. They're just, they go through a lot. They go through a lot, man. They don't fight for trophies. They don't fight for medals, man. They fight to feed their families.
Yeah.
They fight for survival. So that makes a big difference.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed, Manny, having watched other combat sports too, and David Castellanos says they have heart. That I agree with 100%. But I feel like
can't teach hard, man.
Right. But I feel like maybe, Manny, because there may be like a genetic component to it too, somewhat, or maybe like an environmental. Because I feel like Mexico definitely. It's high up, right? They're at altitude a lot of the time in a lot of places, right? And then in some places, and I know like Cain Velasquez from the UFC. He was the first, UFC Mexican heavyweight champion. They would call him Cardio Cain. The guy just would never get tired. He would never get tired, and I think probably with him genetically, it probably had to do with maybe his family growing up in the mountains, high up in the mountains. You just never get tired. And then I got a friend that I've sparred with lightly. His name is Ozzy Diaz. I want to shout him out. He's an MMA fighter out of CMMA, man. He's got 2 knockouts in Bellator. I've sparred with him lightly, Manny, and the guy just, I've never seen anyone not get tired like that. The guy can just keep going for days. Tony Ferguson kind of has the same quality. It's something I've seen from a lot of Mexican fighters, where they just keep going. They don't get tired, and it's
no quitting them, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's like a cardio maybe it's these specific guys had families that come from a very mountainous town or something where the air was thin. You know how they have guys trained at Big Bear and stuff like that to develop their lungs and their cardio. I don't know. That's something that I've noticed. You know what I mean? But I could be totally wrong and just talking out of my behind right now, man.
No, you're right. You're right.
David Castellanos says, "What do you all think of Jaime Munguia, Manny?"
Jaime Munguia is a good fighter. Good, but definitely there's a lot of flaws to his game. He opens up a lot. He makes a lot of mistakes, and somebody that's smart, someone that's a good boxer can definitely expose him.
Yeah.
But I like him. But he's just, he's got some growing up to do as far as boxing is concerned.
Yeah.
There was a time when he was going to fight Triple G, way back in the day before anybody knew anything about him.
Yeah.
And so obviously he wouldn't have won that fight if you ask me. Back then. But he's definitely a legit boxer, a legit fighter. But I just think that he hasn't peaked yet.
Right. And where he made a big splash for me, Manny, was when he beat Saddam Ali, who I thought was going to win. I thought he was going to win that fight. I thought Saddam was going to win that fight. And he just crushed him. He went out there and crushed him. And I said to myself...
That was his claim to fame. If you ask me, that's probably where he's looked his best, because there's been other performances. There was a fight where I think he fought an Irish
Yeah, I know what you're
opponent.
talking about.
When he fought in Monterrey, and they gave him the decision. He lost the fight, and he got the decision.
Yeah, yeah.
Another bad decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I remember a lot of people talking about that fight. Uh, Again, though, Manny, for me, I mean, when I saw what he did to Ali, he kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, man, who is this? This is a big guy. He's a Mexican fighter. He's very aggressive in his style. I really liked it. And then it was Dennis Hogan that really gave him
Right.
a tough time.
Right. And who was Dennis? So nobody knew who Dennis
Right.
Hogan. I didn't know what his name was until you looked it up right now. And this kid is, he beat him, and he got then Munguia got the decision.
Yeah. So,
we talk about bad decisions. That was one.
Yeah, so mixed reviews, guys. Mixed reviews from me and Manny on Jaime Munguia. I feel the same way you do about him, Manny. I think he's tough. Like Raw Dog is saying here, Munguia's a tough kid with balls and an aggressive style, really fan-friendly. But a good boxer, I think, frustrates him.
There you go. Is he ready for the Charlos? Any of the Charlos? Because he's, I think, what is he, 160 now? Yep. I believe he's 160. Yeah. He's no longer 154. Yes, he was a WBO world champion, 154, but I believe he's campaigning at 160, which makes it even tougher for him now.
Yeah, and he didn't
look at the guys. Look at the guys that are in that middleweight division. I mean, there's some great fighters in the middleweight division. Yeah.
And he didn't exactly run through Spike O'Sullivan either in that last event. So, and I think that's when he moved up to 160, I believe. Maybe wrong there.
I mean, so yeah, that says a lot. I mean, hasn't beaten any legit fighter in either 154 or now 160. So I don't know.
Yeah. Perla Basaldua is in here. Thank you, Perla, for joining us. She says, question for Manny as of today, who do you think is the best female fighter with all the qualities?
I like Michaela. Keep an eye on Michaela. Michaela Mayer is definitely going to give people a lot to talk about. She's beautiful. She's well spoken, well mannered, and she can fight.
Yeah.
And she proved that in her last fight. I believe that Michaela, within the year, she's going to get a shot at the title, at the world title, and she's definitely going to be making a lot of noise. I see her, just shining out, and she's a fan-friendly fighter, and she's sky's the limit for her.
Yeah, I mean, she looked like an absolute beast in the last fight, Manny, where you were in her corner. My goodness, she was impressive in that fight. If I'm going to throw out a name, I would say Clarissa Shields at this point for me is probably Clarissa. Up there. But I would.
What about Katie Taylor?
Yeah, I would have Michaela Mayer probably. I like Michaela better than Katie Taylor. I thought Katie Taylor went through hell and back in her last fight, and with that Delphine Pursoon girl. And I'm glad you bring that up because she's actually going to be co-main eventing the Dillian Whyte Povetkin fight against Pursoon again. Who, if I'm being honest, Manny, I think Pursoon won that fight and got robbed there a little bit. Yeah. So.
Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so. Yeah. So Perla, those are our answers, and we really appreciate the question. And I do think, Manny, Eddie Hearn especially is really starting to push women's boxing.
Great. Women's boxing. Yep, great. That's awesome. I'm happy to see that. We got some great female boxers in the gym right now, amateur boxers. But I see these girls, man, and they fight better than the guys. They're incredible. They're incredible. I'm like, man, I look at these girls and I'm like, man, they can fight.
Yeah.
Fight.
No, I definitely love watching the female MMA as well. So I'm excited about women's boxing. David Castellanos says streets have ruined many great fighters. One that comes to mind is Marshall, a.k.a. El Chamuco Martinez. Tons of talent.
He's my friend. He follows me on. We follow each other on Instagram. I know Chamuco for since he was a little kid with Estrellita. He fought Estrellita in the amateurs. They fought several times, actually. My assistant coach. Chamuco, yeah, Chamuco. For people that don't know who Chamuco was, he actually he was in the Team USA. He was actually going to the Olympic Games. He was going to represent the United States in the Olympics, and he got in trouble with the law, and they bumped him out of
Oh
the Team
man, what a
USA.
shame.
And yeah, he lost his opportunity to go to the Olympics. His kid got in, unfortunately, growing up in East LA and East Los,
Yeah.
coming out of the great Resurrection Boxing Club, better known as the De La Hoya Boxing Club. The name changed after, Oscar Juan became an Olympic gold medalist. But for those of the gentleman that just mentioned Chamuco, I'm sure he's heard of or I'm sure he knows about the Resurrection. The Resurrection was an incredible gym that had so much talent back in the 80s and early 90s as well. And he just mentioned Chamuco, Jose Navarro, uh, um, Carlos Navarro, Estrellita Hasso, Avispon
Yeah,
Hasso,
yeah.
Oscar de la Hoya. Man, a lot of talent came out of this gym. A lot of talent. And Chamuco was one of them. And unfortunately, we lost him. He's locked up.
That
So we
sucks,
lost
man.
him to the
That
team.
sucks.
He's locked up, but he should have been a superstar.
Manny Basaldua is also asking if they said that Andy was with Canelo, why is he training with Capetillo? I'm not sure if you know this answer.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. I mean, what's going on with Canelo and because they made this announcement back in the beginning of the year. They've been talking about Canelo with or not Canelo, but Eddie Reynoso working with Andy. It's already late August, mid August, and here's Andy. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. He's out there. I was gonna say something, but I rather not. Forget about it.
Okay.
But no, I rather
Yeah,
not. I rather
yeah,
not.
yeah,
But hey, listen. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. What's going on with
yeah.
Andy? What's going on with Andy and Reynoso? When is that gonna get going? I mean,
Yeah, it seems
I don't know. I don't know what to tell
seems
you.
a little odd. Gunby
He's a
Publishing.
little odd.
Gunby Publishing is in here. Says peace, George. I see you. Peace to you, Sean. Thank you for joining the chat, brother. David Castellanos. We already read that one. Chief MD is in here. He's saying it's just a work ethic, and he's referring to when we were talking about the Mexican fighters. I agree, of course. The Mexican people have always been known for great work ethic. So that definitely probably is it, or has something to do with it. I think, Manny, any person with a great work ethic will succeed at
Yeah.
anything they do. So
Look, I believe it's more than just work
yeah,
ethic,
yeah,
because at the end of the day, when you have two fighters that have great work ethic, that had that are talented, that are gifted, that both come into a fight well prepared, and they match each other, they face each other, and on one end you got a Mexican fighter, and that might be just a little bit more, just a little bit hungrier.
yeah, yeah,
His reasons might be greater. Coming from poverty, and not having what someone like myself, being a Mexican, but I was born in Mexico, but I was raised here in America. So I've had a pretty good life. I've had a pretty decent
right.
life, where I've been to Mexico plenty of times, where I see how my people struggle, what they go through to make ends meet, and that may be the difference.
Yeah, yeah.
No going back and thinking, I don't want to go back to that.
Right, right, right.
I don't want to go back to that. I don't want, I want something better for my family. I want something better for me, to give that extra, just to, I mean, being willing, more than willing to put your life on the line to make a difference for you, for your family, for your loved ones. So sometimes that's what it takes, man. You know.
Yeah. David Castellanos says, when you have no fear, you tend not to use much adrenaline that will wear you out. So I guess that's his logic as to why guys don't
Right.
get so tired. The Mexican fighters, like you said, maybe they came
Yeah.
from a very rough
Fearless.
place.
Fearless, man.
Pacoimero is in here. What's up, brother? Appreciate you being in here. Our brother from Pacoima, Manny. He says, Manny, does Alejandra Jimenez qualify as a female or her own sector of... I don't even know what we're talking about here. And we lost Manny. Give me a second here, guys. Manny, you back?
I'm here.
You're back? Can you hear me?
No.
Let me try calling you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So, Paco, yeah. So Paco Imero's asking about Alejandra Jimenez. Does she qualify as a female? I don't even know if I want to really touch on this one, Manny. I'll leave this one up to you if you want to talk about this one.
I'd rather not.
Sorry, Paco Imero. On to the next question, my brother. Appreciate you joining us. David Castellano says. David Castellanos.
That was a low blow.
Yeah. David Castellanos. Castellanos says a pizza ruined his career. I think he's talking about El Chamuco, Manny.
Pizza?
A pizza ruined his career. I don't know what.
A lot more than pizza, brother.
David Castellanos says, also with all due respect, Capetillo can't even get close to give Andy what Robles was going to give to Andy.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Capetillo's my friend, man. I got respect for all the coaches out there because we all come from that struggle. You know what I mean? We're all trying to, make a difference in boxing, make a difference in our lives, and Capetillo's a good man. He's a man of God, and he's a good coach. He's got Jesse Magdaleno now, and Jesse was fighting for the world title in September. I wish him and Capetillo nothing but the best, nothing but success. They got a tough fight ahead of themselves with El Vaquero. But nonetheless, Capetillo, he's a good guy, and I respect him. And when I'm in Vegas, I call him up to try to, borrow his gym with my boxers whenever we need a gym. And he's always treated me well. He's always treated me with respect, and the same goes back to him. You know what I mean? I got nothing bad to say about him.
For sure. Paco Imero says, Manny, an honest question. Why would anybody believe in Andy anymore? After the upset, I had a truck decal I placed with pride. Having conversations on the stone that the builder refused, then he shit on all our hope. So Paco Imero seems pretty upset about the whole situation there, which is understandable.
And I don't blame people for being upset. To be honest with you, you can't blame people because I'm upset. I'm upset at myself. I'm upset at the situation. I'm upset at the whole situation, Andy, because listen, man, I don't know what happened to the kid. I mean, but I know for a fact that Andy ain't scared of nothing, man.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Andy's got a cojones, he's got a huge heart, and he's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. He proved it. Look at his record.
Yeah.
His record says it all. And he's fought some tough fighters along the way that he's been able to beat. He beat Joshua once. The way he did it was incredible. That was not luck. He was, ready for that fight, ready for the challenge. Came in great shape. But what happened after the fight, the first fight, unfortunately, I lost him. Here's a kid that grew up in the hood that pretty much never made that kind of money, and all of a sudden he wakes up a millionaire, and he didn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad now, honestly, for him to even act. You know what pisses me off? I gotta say this. That it almost seems like he's acting like he won the fight when he lost. You know what I mean? The second fight.
Yeah.
He's out there, on social media doing all these things and saying all these things. And, bro, you lost the fucking fight. You know what I mean? Come on, get it together. Can he win again? Can he become a world champion again? Yes, he can. Because I know him. I know Andy. Andy, like I said, Andy's got talent. He can crack. He's got a hell of a chin. He proved it against Joshua. He's proved it against other fighters.
Manny, I gotta say,
It's just
I gotta say, besides he can crack and a hell of a chin, that hand speed is God given, Manny. That is God given, brother. Nobody has that in the heavyweight division.
yeah. Look, man, I'm gonna tell you, he doesn't have the best work ethic. I can tell you that for a fact. That he's, you got to push this guy to work. Yeah, but there's things people don't know, man. I used to go 12 rounds on the mitts with Andy, on the shield, on the mitts, on the body shield. 12 solid rounds, almost.
Manny, this connection's driving me.
Hear me?
You're back now, Manny. Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you
Okay,
hear me now?
Yeah, so you were talking about 12 solid rounds you were going with.
I used to go 12 rounds with him, man. I mean, this is a heavyweight.
Yeah.
This guy's a heavyweight that I used to come home in and I was done by the time I came home. On top of that, I'm working with my other boxers. Working at the time, working with Dominic, working with Charles Martin, and then Andy Reid, Jesus, and 20 other guys,
Yeah,
and they just. But I used to get beat up, but that I love to work, man. You talk about Mexican fighters that they're hard workers, and that's me. You put me in the gym, you put me in my comfort zone, which is boxing and working with my boxers. I go to work, and I remember, working with Andy, man. I just worked countless hours, and go round after round after round on the mitts, on the shield, exposing my body physically because I understood that was the only way I could make him give me 100%. Other than that, it was just hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
Man, I still hope, Manny, that relationship somehow gets mended, because I do think, obviously, you were very good for his career, very good for his life, and I think just your positivity, Manny. I mean, having known you. Wow, I mean, basically since that upset, that's when I met you. I got to interview you after that upset, and then, luckily became your friend. You just, such a positive guy, Manny, and look what you did for him. You turned him into a millionaire overnight, and I think it would be foolish not to at some point reflect on that and come back to you. I would love to facilitate that if I could at some point. So,
I believe it's kind of hard for him to reflect on that, as you said, when you got all the millions in the bank. It's like you're comfortable now. You're comfortable now. You don't got to worry about nothing. At least not for a little while.
Yeah. Well, I'm just putting it out there.
It's kind of hard to reflect.
I'm just putting it out there. If they're comfortable, hey, you can reach out to me. I don't mind, sitting down with everyone at a table, because I think it would be a great decision for everybody. Manny, I wanted to close out with this, being the sort of Arab Hispanic cocktail that I am, and having seen Mexico, having seen some of these Arab countries and stuff that my family came from, and Venezuela as well. I got to throw Venezuela in the mix, where my mother's side was before they came to the United States. I see what you're talking about, these tough situations that these people come from, and I think it's relevant because Manuel Char, he's the WBA regular heavyweight champion, Manny. He's a guy of Syrian descent, which, as we know, Syria just had its civil war. Born in Lebanon, which just had a massive explosion, Manny. I don't know if you've heard about it in the news, and they've been dealing with corruption forever. I mean, when I went to visit, Manny, and it still goes on today, I think they lose power something like 4 to 12 hours a day. There's no electricity, and they all got to buy generators. It's just a nightmare. And it's sad because it's a beautiful place. Well, anyway, he had to move to Germany, of course, because had he stayed in
Super cool
had
career.
he stayed in Lebanon or Syria, he probably would have never gotten the
Not
opportunity to
happening.
box.
Correct.
And he wants to. He's been calling out consistently, Manny, on social media nonstop. He's been calling out Andy Ruiz, which I think would be 10 times of a better fight than Chris Arreola, because at least Manuel Manny has a title. At least he's got a title, a WBA regular title. And, the reason I mentioned him moving to Germany is because it's the story of a lot of Arab people. It's very parallel to the Mexican people. They move up to Europe to get out of their situation. He's been shot. He got shot in his stomach. I think it actually happened to him in the streets of Germany. He was shot in the stomach. He had to get surgery. If you see, he's got a huge scar on his stomach. I think it would be a fascinating matchup, and I do think Ruiz would probably win that fight, but I think it would be more at stake, I think, and do more for his career than a fight with Chris
Well, I
Arreola at
agree.
this point.
I agree. Oh, definitely, I agree. But I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what his team is thinking as far as fighting Ariola. But I don't know. I mean, there's many other fights that you can and you're not the only one that feels this way or thinks this way. There's some good fights to be made out there for Andy, but it is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do? Like I said, you feel he's taking 2 steps back. I feel he's taking 1 step forward, but you don't need to take 1 step forward. You need to take 5 or 6 steps forward if you want to be a world champion again. I mean, look, by the time he fights again, it'll be a year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time he fights Ariola. And then what? And then when will he fight again after that? That's if he fights in this November, December.
Yeah.
Or whenever. He's got to get back in it and do it again. The worst thing with Andy, knowing Andy as well as I do, is the layoff. Long layoffs are not good for Andy. Andy needs to stay busy. You know why? Because if the busier he is, the busier he stays in the gym with fights. He doesn't have time to be out
Right.
messing around.
It's like the kids, Manny. It's like these kids, in the high schools and stuff. I mean, if you give them free time, if they're not in sports, if they're not doing something productive or keeping active, they're going to get into some shit, Manny. I mean, that's what always happens,
Correct. Except Andy's not a kid. He's 31
That's right.
years old.
That's right. Yeah. Timothy Grant is in here. Shout out. Thank you for being in here. Ogun Ondiek, thank you for being in here, brother. He says Pacoimero Wilder started late. Pacoimero says, long live the resistance in Syria. Long live my Syriacos. 187. Bashar Esed. Ogun Ondiek says, Ruiz should have listened to you, Manny. I agree. Ruiz should have listened to Manny. I hope this thing comes back together. I would love to facilitate if anyone wants to reach out to me. Feel more comfortable that way, Manny. I'm putting it out there, Manny. I know you didn't ask me
Right
to,
on.
but I'm
That's
putting
cool.
it out there, brother. You're my boy, and anything I can do for you and him, and I would love to do. I would love to see some positivity. And that's pretty much it. Pacoimero says in here, yeah, but since I started losing my vision, I've been a little different. I can admit this much. Well, I hope you're okay, Pacoimero. And David Castellanos says Javier Mora would give Andy a better fight than Areola. You're probably right about that.
Javier Mora. Wow. Javier Mora is my buddy. My dad and I, well, obviously, I was the assistant to my dad, but we used to train Javier Mora way back in the day at LA Boxing. That's another fighter that should have been a heavyweight contender.
Yeah.
Definitely a heavyweight contender. Definitely a fighter reminds me of Andy, as a matter of fact. Definitely tough as nails and good skilled fighter, strong, solid, but like to party, man. And, you got to make excuse me. You got to make a decision in life sometimes. Boxing or or whatever else is out there.
Well, guys, for the 13th time in as many weeks, I've given you almost 2 hours of one of the greatest boxing trainers to ever grace this planet. And
I
Manny
appreciate that.
Robles.
I'm far from that, George, but thank you anyway.
I think you're the best, Manny. And guys, please, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, join us every Monday at 7 p.m. with Manny, where we talk about boxing. Get your shirts in the links below. Follow Manny on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. And, we'll be seeing you guys next Monday. Manny, before we let everybody go, the boxing roundup just came in here. Appreciate you being in here. He says, is Manny still training Charles Martin? Absolutely. And Charles Martin is now mandatory for the IBF title after his last win. Is that right, Manny?
That is correct.
And then Ogun on DX says, just want to say it's an honor listening to Manny. Great show, Fighters Rep. Thank you, man. It's an honor for you guys to watch us, and I hope you guys continue to do so. Manny, anything you want to say before we let the knuckleheads go here?
No, just wish everybody nothing but the best, and stay. We'll be talking. We got some good matchups coming up in the next couple weeks. So, Top Rank's going at it again with I believe this weekend with title eliminator at 175. So stay tuned for that. I'll be in Vegas next week with Christopher Zavala, Top Rank card, and
nice.
So stay tuned. I got Terrell Boucher fighting Erickson Lubin in September 19th, so stay tuned for that one as well. That's gonna be a great fight, and like I said, boxing it's nonstop, man. You can hold us back for a little bit, but now we're back, and try to give people what they want. All these boxing loyal fans what they want, which is great fights.
Absolutely. Can't wait to watch it. And, we'll be seeing you guys on Monday at 7 p.m. Until then, knuckleheads, keep it clean. Me and Manny, we're out of here.